I'm Dominic Walker, JMW's Inside Man. My guest is Lucy Marlow. Lucy is a Senior Associate Solicitor within JMW's Intellectual Property Department. Lucy has a particular interest in athletics, largely because Lucy's a runner herself. So Lucy, we wanted to talk today about Nike's new super shoe. Tell me about it and why is the technology different in this shoe?
So these Nike shoes are called the Fly Shoe range, and they were the shoes that Eliud Kipchoge wore to break the world record for the marathon. He dipped under 2 hours wearing these shoes. And what makes them super special is that they're effectively a giant spring. So they're super light and they're comprised of a special foam that required aerospace technology. They're very cushioned, and in particular, they've got a special carbon fiber plate. So all in all, it means that the shoe's really responsive and it creates a propulsive effect. And that in turn makes runners more efficient, which means faster times.
Sounds like it might even make me faster, this, Lucy. So whenever there's this sort of technology, governing bodies will be interested in it. Have World Athletics said anything? Are there regulations around this?
Yeah, so back in April 2020, World Athletics, which is the governing body for athletics, implemented some rules around these shoes being used in competition. There was a lot of talk about the shoes amounting to shoe doping, giving an unfair advantage. And what these new regulations brought in are basically some parameters in which the technology can exist. So firstly, the sole itself had to be no thicker than 40 millimeters. And also the shoe, any shoe that was going to be used in competition must have been available for sale for 4 months beforehand. And also, rather than having multiple carbon fiber plates, only one single plate was allowed in the shoe. So those were the regulations that the shoe companies then had to ensure the shoes complied with.
And Lucy, you're of course an intellectual property lawyer. So what are the IP rights? What are the intellectual property rights in these shoes?
So with all products, there can be a range of overlapping IP rights at play. In this particular case, it's mainly patents and trademarks that are of particular interest. And the reason why patents would be of particular interest to Nike is because they would want to ensure that they have protection for the technology in that shoe. And in order to be granted a patent, Nike would need to show that their technology is both novel and inventive over what was beforehand known. And by being granted a patent, Nike would effectively have a monopoly over this technology that was afforded by the patent. So what that means is that Nike could prevent its competitors from operating within the scope of their patent claims, even if their competitors independently came up with something similar. So what this means is that there's another race at play. There's effectively a race to be able to file the patent first, but also, and this is, particular interest to me, is the branding side of things. So these shoes, there's a range of trademarks at play, in particular Alphafly. So Nike would have also applied for a trademark in class 35 covering clothing and footwear, protecting the words Alphafly, which means that if any other company out there comes out with branding Alphafly in respect of clothing or footwear, Nike can bring a complaint against those entities.
And how can JMW's intellectual property department help? Generally, not everybody may want to discuss shoes, but generally, how can you help?
So I think the main thing here is that if you've come up with a highly inventive, creative product, it's firstly to understand exactly what rights are at play and which rights you might want to apply for. So it could be trademarks, it could be patents, and we can audit your product and give some initial advice as to what options are available to you to ensure that you get the maximum protection in place.
Lucy, thank you so much for your insight. If you'd like to speak to Lucy and the intellectual property team, you can email insideman@jmw.co.uk or call 0161 82 81 999. I'm Dominic Walker, JMW's Inside Man.